All right, let's move on to fact number 2 that the majority of critical scholars accept, and it's this. On the Sunday following the crucifixion, Jesus' tomb was found empty by a group of his women followers. Why do critical scholars think that this fact points to the historical credibility of the empty tomb story?
Well, again, the empty tomb account is attested in independent and early sources. We have around 6 different independent sources attesting to the fact of the discovery of Jesus' empty tomb. One of these, again, would be the pre-Markan Passion story. The Passion story does not end with the burial. The empty tomb story is part of the Passion account. It is linked to the burial account by grammatical and linguistic ties. It really is one narrative, and the story does not end until the discovery of the empty tomb. Similarly, in that pre-Pauline formula that Paul quotes in his letter to the church in Corinth, the 3rd line of the saying says, "And he was raised on the 3rd day in accordance with the Scriptures." Now, there are 2 indications there that the empty tomb sticks behind this line of the saying. First, when you compare the 4 lines of the saying to the gospel accounts on the one hand and the sermons in the Acts of the Apostles, what you find is that the first line corresponds to the crucifixion, the second line, and that he was buried, corresponds to the burial account. The 3rd line, he was raised on the 3rd day, corresponds to the empty tomb story, and then he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12, corresponds to the story of the appearances. So that what Paul is giving is a sort of sermon outline, if you will, in which the 3rd point of the outline is the empty tomb story. The other indication is the phrase, "on the 3rd day." Why do they use this terminology? Well, to make a long story short, this is most probable because it was on the 3rd day, according to Jewish reckoning, that the women found the tomb empty. And so naturally the resurrection came to be dated on that day. So in Paul's information, we also have very early evidence for the empty tomb. We also have other independent sources behind Luke and Matthew, the sermons in the Acts of the Apostles, so that the empty tomb story is abundantly attested in independent early sources. Historians think that they've hit historical pay dirt if they can find 2 independent early accounts of an event. But in the case of the empty tomb story, we have around 6 such independent early sources.